Well, most likely you've heard about this biblical story of the historic battle between David and Goliath. Briefly, the story goes this way, that the Palestinian army had gathered for a war against the Israeli army. The two armies faced each other, camped for a battle on the opposite sides of a steep valley. And let's see what happens next. So this Palestinian giant, measuring over 9 feet and wearing a full body armor, came out each day challenging and mocking Israeli army for about 40 days. Saul, the king of Israel, and the entire Israeli army were terrified of Goliath because he was tall and he was ferocious. But one day, David, a small and skinny shepherd, not even a warrior, came out and accepted the challenge of Goliath and told him to his face that he wasn't afraid of him. But then what happened next? Like it always happens, everybody laughed at David and everybody mocked him, calling him a young teenager with no skill or strength to match up against the Goliaths. Everybody said that David was going to get himself killed. Everybody said that David was going to die. But this did not bother David. While there, David heard Goliath shouting his daily defiance on regular basis, and he saw great fear in the eyes of the men of Israel. David, however, declared that he wasn't afraid and he volunteered to fight Goliath. So David approaches the battlefield dressed in simple tunic, a slingshot and 5 stones only. But no armor, no spear, no sword, no shield. As Goliath moved in for the kill, David reached into his bag, pulled a stone out and slung it right into the forehead of Goliath. David's well-aimed shot sank through the hole in the helmet of Goliath, and that caused him to fall face down on the ground. David then took the sword of Goliath and chopped his throat. So what's the takeaway from this story? Why would I even discuss this story in a business tutorial video? Well, here are some lessons to learn. Goliath was a typical warrior with typical weaponry and typical armory. David, however, came up with an unconventional battle weapon, the slingshot. David used to use it to scare away the wolves from his flock as a shepherd, but it was rarely ever used for a battle. Another unconventional business battle weapon is growth hacking. Growth hacking is a process of rapid experimentation across a wide range of advertising channels to identify the most effective one for your business. So growth hacking is a mindset, a skill set, an approach, a strategy, a vision. Now this was a brief regarding growth hacking. The details of it I'm going to be discussing in our newly introduced course, Business Success Program, the most advanced MBA program ever. I think it's time to say goodbye to the bookish, theory-based traditional MBA programs which are designed in the 20th century and are still being taught in 21st. Well, the market is volatile and we must do something unconventional. So let's go unconventional. Let's do something action-based. Goliath was the fiercest warrior from the Palestinian army, and the terms of the battle were simple between David and Goliath. The one who wins the battle, his side wins the war. So David beat Goliath and rest of the Palestinian army just ran away, realizing that they were no match to David. Israel won the war and David became later King David. But it didn't hop into a straightly heated fight against David because he knew that he would have been defeated. He used the distance, the surprise and unconventionalism to his favor and eventually won the battle. Against all odds, the enemy's most ferocious warrior with full armor and sword and shield was beaten by a young lad with nothing but a slingshot. Now, could this be a lucky hit? Well, I would argue preparedness and skill, because the stone hit David right in the middle of his eyes, and that too through the hole of a helmet. This can't be a lucky hit. This has to be preparedness. Now imagine the same simple slingshot in the hands of a novice. Would it have yielded the same successful results? I don't think so. So David certainly had the expertise. David didn't engage into the battle of strength, he knew he would lose. David also didn't engage into the battle of sword because he knew he would lose. Obviously, if Goliath was few meters close to David, he would have slayed him. And obviously, if the stone was few inches off, the story could have had a much different ending. Goliath had full armor on, so his movements were slow. David, on the other hand, refused to wear any armor or carry swords or carry shield, so his movements were fast, but he was extremely vulnerable to sword attacks. So David maintained his distance, he was able to move fast, his hands were free, his vision was clear. He found an opening in the helmet around the forehead of a slow-moving Goliath and slung a stone right into it. And the rest is history. Therefore, if we can adopt these lessons into our business, we can achieve laurels in our business and become highly successful. All the best from my side. Ciao.